So just wanted to say thank you everyone for attending today. I'm the Public Involvement Manager for ARC North West Coast, and I just wanted to thank my team, Ruth Ball, Shema Hassan, who's joining us remotely from Egypt today, and Paula Byrne, our academic lead, but also a massive thank you to all our public advisors, many of which have joined us today. It's so interesting to hear from some of the projects that have been going on about, co-production and lived experience. And in a minute, we're going to have a brief panel where we're going to talk about some of the things that are barriers and facilitators to involving communities and the public in research. Before we do that, I just wanted to say just a little thought to all the people that have managed to make it here today. And, we need to think about some of the things like social anxiety that has been brought up by coming back to face-to-face events. I've been working remotely throughout this role so this is my first proper face-to-face event. So these are the sort of things we need to consider when we're involving people back face-to-face again. So next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to really briefly mention some of the things that we've been doing since the last ArcFest. So we've published our member offer, so our offer to all our member organisations about how we can support them to do some of the co-production and involvement that we've been hearing about today, and to support them, and to also learn from them about some of the amazing practices that our member organisations already use themselves. For example, the Coran's been doing some amazing events looking at things like community panels and things like that. We've been doing work with our co-lead. So this is our innovative leadership approach to having public advisors co-lead our research themes. And as far as I know, we're probably one of the only large research collaborations that have tried to do something like this before. So we've recently given a report to each of our themes about the implementation of this new role and some of the wonderful things that our co-leads have been able to do in this new type of way of working. So instead of co-producing research projects, but actually looking at strategic development and leadership of whole research themes alongside our senior academics. And we're going to be presenting about this research at the Health Services Research Conference next month. So we'll be sending out information about that soon. So we're having our first public advisor forum, which is going to be face-to-face. So that's going to be my next challenge coming up soon. And we've also been going on a few outings. So some of our public advisors and researchers went to Manchester to an event, a sort of an amazing creative event with Made by Mortals and Art Greater Manchester. And it's really great to be seeing some of this collaboration between some of the different ARCs and organisations, and that was really amazing. And as you can see from one of our banners, we're also going to be attending other events. So on Friday, I'm attending, one of our public advisors has set up a community interest company supporting Romani Gypsy families in the Northwest called Pride of Romani. So we're going to be attending that event on Friday. We've just held our Seldom Heard Forum on men's mental health, and the next one is going to be on the 4th of July about prisoners and criminal justice system and well-being. So do sign up on the Eventbrite for that as well. So I would like to actually get you a little bit more awake and moving. So we're going to have one of our wonderful stretches from Nahid. It's going to come up here and really briefly, or you can do it there if you want, Nahid. So thank you. Because, we've all been sitting down much too long.
Hi everyone. As you probably noticed from my face, Selena's just thrown me into this. But yes, because you're all sitting down, ideally those of you can please stand up, because this is the whole point, I'll get you all awake. And great. So first of all, I want everyone to put their hands up in the air, stretch as far as possible as you can. And while you've got those hands up in the air, I want you to think of all the things that you've achieved over the last couple of years, but especially today, coming here to ArcFest, our first hybrid event. And obviously that is a big achievement for us. I want you to reflect on the challenges that you've overcome, and obviously some of you are still facing those challenges, but we all need to keep that work ethic going. So build on that confidence and keep it going. Okay, I want everyone to lean down. Those of you who can, touch your feet, otherwise you can leave your arms dangling.
You can see us doing yoga.
Yeah, and throughout all of this, what you've got to remember is that we want to stay grounded. Yeah, whenever we meet people throughout our research, we want to have empathy and understanding so that we can overcome these health inequalities, health equity that we are seeing. Is anyone able to touch their feet? No? Okay, so hopefully you've stretched the back of those legs. If you all stand up, put your arms right to the side. I see Mark's built up a sweat.
Mark's business is taking his jacket off.
Because I want to rip the jacket, that's what it is. Too many.
Okay, so keep our arms out and think about when we are doing all this research, we want to remain inclusive within our communities, within our organisations. We want to bring the right people to the table who all think fairly and treat everyone equally, so that we can make this research journey the great thing that it is already, but continue to do that. You're all stretched. Give your hand a little wriggle. Right, the most important thing is, if you give a hug to yourselves, what we want to think about, that the most important thing and the most important person throughout all of this is yourselves. We want to be able to be inspired by ourselves, and in order to do that, we have to look after ourselves. We need to think about self-care, and we need to think about asking for help and support when we need it. Okay, so if everyone just closes their eyes, reflect for a few minutes, and then open them slowly. Hands to the side, and all give yourselves a little wiggle, little dance on the spot if you feel like it. Don't know about you, but I've definitely become hot. Okay, thank you, Selena.
Selena, does anybody else need to come up?
No, you can stay, Mark. You're
So-
fine.
Neil's
Can I
not
have...
with us.
Sorry?
Neil.
No, I don't think so. Is Neil here? No. Right, next slide, please. Yeah, so someone's going to have to remind me of what time we need to finish, because I know we're over time. So if we do need to cut it short, just let me know. But
Panel. How long have you got?
we were supposed to have 25 minutes, but I know we're running
How long
late.
have you got before we go to the panel discussion?
We're going to have the panel
Right,
discussion now. So can I have my panel introduce themselves, please, from right to left is fine. Paula, do you want to?
Thinking about where my left is at. Hi everyone, for those people that don't know me, my name's Paula Wheeler and I am a research theme manager for the equitable based placed health and care theme within the ARC. I also have a remit across the whole of the ARC around neighbourhood coordination, and I'm really interested in public, patient, everything involvement and engagement.
I'm Ashley Sharp. I'm a PhD student within UCLan who's funded by the ARC.
What? Yeah. I was just going to say, what's your PhD on, actually?
Health and social care, so it's looking at neonates and the parents' mental health when they're discharged home.
Thanks, Ashley. Paul?
My name's Paul Moran. I'm one of the public advisors and co-theme lead on the HCAL theme. I'm also an activist probably in my local area and run Old Swan Boxing Club as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. So I've just thrown them into this, so they've got no idea what we're going to ask them. And we can also take questions from the floor, so if anybody does have any burning questions for them. So I just wanted to ask the panel, what barriers have you experienced that get in the way of involvement or co-production of research? And can you give any examples from your own experience? Paula?
I knew you'd start with me. Right, yeah, well, quite a recent example I've had actually. So Selena's just alluded on the slides that a group of us visited the Royal Northern College of Music to see a production that our Greater Manchester have been involved in developing, and we very luckily are going to be also working with the organisation, the Community Interest Company, Made by Mortals, in the summer. And what we wanted to do was sort of build on the work that the ARC's been undertaking about the seldom heard groups, you know, getting people listened to in the context and the space of research. And as part of me planning for the workshops, I thought it would be quite easy, very naively, to work with one of the groups of the seldom heard people with lived experience that we'd been working with today, thinking that we would just be able to have conversations and introduce them to some of the concepts that we're interested in and invite them to attend a workshop, lunch, etc. It was only on talking to the actual group of people that I realised how far away they were from actively getting engaged in some of our research. So it's great we've got Seldom Heard, where people are beginning to be listened to in groups that routinely I would suspect haven't been listened to, not just in research but in health and care across the system, I think, and thinking about what we need to do within ARC to sort of encourage them, warm them up so that they are almost research ready. I think being listened to is one aspect of that pathway around public and patient involvement, but it made me realise how much we've still got to do in order to encourage them people and be where they're at. Not just take their lived experience and try and fit it in a square peg that we've got around a research question, but actually understand, you know, even visiting a space like this, even standing up and talking and sharing their lived experience. So our aim for our workshop is to think about creative approaches to sort of take some of those conversations a bit further. So that was a really interesting insight for me. I thought it would be easy, and it absolutely wasn't.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Paul. I think that's really important to remember. That's what I was alluding to at the beginning of today. It's not necessarily easy, you know, to go to people that are, you know, living in situations that are difficult and say, here, come and do some research. You know, we need to really consider, you know, the impact on people and how difficult it can be to do that. Ashley, you're one of our PhD students, and the ARC PhD students are really lucky because they get to involve public advisors in a really in-depth way as part of their research team. In terms of, have you faced any barriers around involving public advisors or the community in your work? What do you think of the question?
Just in terms of how long it takes to actually get them to be recruited, to be able to be involved as a public advisor, I thought I'd just be able to ask questions to anyone, whereas they've got to be recruited to the ARC and provide details and stuff like that, which if they don't reply within a certain amount of time when my work's due, they can't be involved. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, moving from that sort of traditional way of involving people, which can be sort of, you know, quick conversations, maybe with patients or something like that, to move into a model where you're trying to co-produce the research in a much more in-depth way. There's definitely different challenges that come up through trying to do that and making sure that we involve people in a way that's really meaningful. Paul, have you got anything to say about it?
Just probably going off the back of what Paula was saying about, it's really important to get the hearts and minds of the people who are getting involved. You know, you've got to give them the why they're getting involved. You've got to give them the what's in it for them as well, because if you don't do that kind of sell to people, it's really difficult to get people engaged. And also, you know, people's lives are busy, so you've got to kind of really, you know, fit into multiple different schedules, whether that's evening times, first thing in the morning times, all that kind of stuff. You know, you've got to consider all of these different things with people working from home and all that kind of stuff as well at the moment, I think. Yeah, that's really important to cater for the different kind of groups that you're working with and understand what the challenges and what they need to have in their lifestyle to make them actually. And sometimes researchers can look a little bit like vampires, and they're just trying to sort of suck everyone's life experiences out. And, you know, so you do need to consider what you're giving back as well. And like they say, make people understand, you know, what are they going to get back from that research. And hopefully, you know, we do consider things like skill development and supporting people with lived experience to maybe undertake research themselves. And I know a lot of our public advisors have really, you know, taken the skills that they've learned with the ARC and really run with them and are doing all sorts of things that maybe they never would have considered at the start that they'd be doing now. So, in terms of that, you know, the next question was to think about, you know, what do you think is necessary for successful public and community-led research? I think, Mark, you want to jump in?
I want to ask you a question. So if we've got that activity, we need to find a way of recording it. So as part of our impact, we should be looking at the impact on our public advisors and collecting information about what. So I think we are doing that, aren't we? Looking at some of the unexpected benefits, both to the individuals and the communities that they are part of from participating in our work. So that would be my, since I'm sitting on the panel, that would be my comment in response to what you're saying. You told me to stay here, so anyway, your next question.
Well, I mean, I'll just answer, I think, impact is always a really important thing. We were talking earlier about implementation and making sure that things from research go into practice, and it's really important to look at the impact. And that's always a challenge for people to, not everything can be collected quantitatively. It's hard to see those. I used to work on the case studies for REF, which is looking at how a piece of research has impacted the world after it's been published over a long period of time. And it's similar to this, so we're always looking at ways in which we can try and understand our public advisors and the research. And in fact, we're going to be looking at this at our next public advisor forum, doing some face-to-face work with our advisors on the skill sets that they have and how that's developed over time. So thanks, Mark. So really briefly, Paula, what do you think is necessary for successful public or community-led research? Big question.
That's a tough one. I mean, we could talk about what we think we should do and then what we actually do. I think there's something, I mean, we'll talk about it in our theme session as well. The C's that everyone's talking about, it's not just co-production. How do you co-produce for co-production? So you need to be able to connect, you need to be able to collaborate, you need to be able to talk, you need to be able to chat, we need to be approachable. Comms, another C, how we share what we do. And I think that's linked to the impact consideration. I think, we can be creative in how we demonstrate our impact. Clarissa with her dementia work, visual things, our blogs, all those types of things give us an opportunity to share what we do and to be open to those people that we work with in this space, to offer ideas that we might not have been thought of. I think it's always important to think about where we don't know all the answers working in ARC as researchers. I'm not saying that we deem that we do, but being open to different ways and possibly changing the direction of travel if we think that there is an opportunity to be more successful in that.
Thanks, Paula. Ashley, what's your perspective? What do you think, from your perspective, is necessary for successful involvement and co-production?
I think finding public advisors who are really interested in the topic. So I've been really lucky that my public advisors have had lived experiences, both positive and negative, and can provide me with details of what my research can lead to and what I should and shouldn't include as well.
Do you think having that kind of lived experience keeps you grounded in, the reality of what you're trying to look at?
Because a lot of the questions that I could have asked in terms of research might not have been appropriate, whereas if they'd never had that lived experience, they wouldn't be able to tell me that. So.
Thanks, Ashley. What about you, Paul?
I think from a public advisor point of view, I came into public advisor like 18 months ago now. I didn't really know what it was. I'd never done research before, definitely not an academic or well educated at all. But actually my opinion is valued, and I'm surprised how much I've got involved in. I've probably been involved in 8 studies in 18 months, really in-depth things. So I was really surprised in how much I can get involved in the studies. And I think it's just kind of breaking that barrier down. If you go out to somebody and say, do you want to get involved in some research? A lot of people will just say no. But actually, if you get involved in it, it's just your opinion that people want, and they want a balanced opinion from right across our community. So I think that's kind of, important.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Paul, you were involved in looking at some of the real in-depth sort of and real-time community involvement in terms of the MARS study in COVID, looking at the Liverpool sort of trial around mass testing. I think without having your kind of community in-depth knowledge, we wouldn't have been able to do that. I don't think so.
Well, that's it. It's just having people kind of on the ground, if you like, in the community. That was really quick turnaround. Within 2 weeks we identified what the problem was, put a fix in place and kind of moved on. So, just having those people in each community, I think is vital for us.
I'm going to wrap up now, but I think, I'd say one thing I'd finally say is that co-production's a word. It's one of the things that we try and avoid is lots of jargon, and whatever we do, we create jargon Academics don't even realise they're saying it. I'm sure I do it myself as well. But co-production is one of those words where, you know, it's just bandied around and you know, trying to understand what co-production really means in terms of actually, you know, public-led research or community-led research. I think that's going to be our next sort of big challenge, really, is sort of how do we do that in a real sort of meaningful, integrated way to have, you know, I think we've made some really great inroads into it in what the art's doing in terms of things like the research development networks, but, you know, I think we've still got a way to go with that, so that's our next big challenge. Thank you.
So, thank you very much.